on, rain or shine, gotta make the game on time. All week long, gotta train, 'cause I'm better than the rest. Alright, alright. Match start, feeling good, rival team is raving too. On the field, think of you, trainer says some love tonight. Alright, alright.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me again, Alasdair McKenzie. Alasdair, I thought it's the perfect way to celebrate the birthday of Giorgio Chinaglia with his song, I'm Football Crazy.
Yeah, fantastic. You surprised me again. You never tell me when we're getting new intros, and I don't know how to react.
I'm sorry. It was
great stuff. You know, it's a special occasion when the music changes.
Well, we had to celebrate the birthday of probably one of the biggest icon of Lazio. And it's good to celebrate even with 3 points against Udinese. It was a very important match. It could have been very difficult. You know, Lazio played just 3 days ago, and there's an important match this weekend against AC Milan. A little bit of turnover. We've been speaking the last episode of Lazio Lounge all about who should start, Felipe Anderson or Nani, and Inzaghi surprised us and made both of them play. What's your thought about this decision of Simone Inzaghi?
Well, he doesn't want anyone to call him predictable, does he? It was very interesting. I think, like you say, it was a really important game. We've been looking at the table for ages, and it's, like we said a couple of weeks ago, it's a bit annoying when you have a game in hand and you kind of think about what the table could look like. So it's good to actually get those 3 points and know where we stand. But yeah, I mean, with all these games coming thick and fast at the moment, it was quite a bold decision on his part, I thought, to drop Alberto to the bench at a time when he was already without Ciro Immobile, and obviously that combination has been so important. And in the first half, I think it's safe to say that it didn't look like it was really working properly. They looked like a combination who haven't spent any time playing together. And obviously you're also talking about two players whose natural role is on the wing. So two players who are kind of out of position and not really used to each other's company. But I think the second half performance is really encouraging in terms of what we saw from them in the second half. I think that's a lot more aligned to what Inzaghi would have hoped to see from them in terms of making the most of their best attributes. So I think we can allow them a dodgy first 45 minutes because it takes a while to get used to get into your stride. And I think the second half performance from the whole team was really good, but particularly from the way their partnership picked up is one of the most positive things about this game, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. As you said, it's not very easy. Lazio had pretty much all yesterday to train and prepare this match. So, first time, I think Lazio page tweeted that it was the 9th different starting striker formation for Lazio after Luis Alberto Immobile, Luis Alberto Caseido, Nani Caseido, Anderson Immobile, Anderson Caseido, Nani Palombi we played once, Caseido Palombi, Immobile Palombi. So, a lot of different solution Inzaghi tried, and this time they really had just one training yesterday to try to work each other. So I presume the first half makes sense.
Another training session.
Yeah. And in the second half things changes. And the other thing I want to bring is think about Simone Inzaghi, how often, I just mentioned how many times he changed the formation or the strikers, and then think about Sarri and how he always start the same team, the same three strikers. That for me, tells you a lot. Tells you the message Inzaghi wants to bring to the team and say everybody's important, everybody's fundamental for this team. And today, again, there was the proof. And I think Nani and Felipe Anderson, in different ways, all proved to be worthy, to have a good performance and to respond to what Inzaghi asked them. So, yeah, I think it was very positive. And we are third.
Yeah, I think we are third with 3 points clear and third as well. So, the Sampdoria-Roma game's taking place as well. It's about to start as we record now. So, let's hope for a Samp win there to extend that lead to 6 points as well over them. But yeah, I think in terms of Anderson and Nani as well, it remains to be seen what he's going to do once Ciro is back again as well, because we spent a lot of time while those two were injured talking about what their role in the team's likely to be. I think it's pretty clear now what their role in the team is, but now there's those 4 players all wanting a starting spot, and from the way that Ciro and Alberto have played this season, they have to be the first choice. So, it's hard to know how long this can go on before they get a bit frustrated about being impact subs in the same way that I suppose Lukaku was earlier on in the season, because with a fit and healthy Ciro and a fit and healthy Alberto, it's unlikely that we're going to see Nani and Anderson starting many games.
Yeah, but it's even true that now Lazio will play pretty much every week, every 3 days. So I'm happy that, in a certain way, I'm happy that Inzaghi picked Felipe Anderson and Nani today, because then next Sunday Luis Alberto is going to start against AC Milan and he's going to be fresh. I don't know if Caicedo is going to start Sunday against AC Milan, but it's good to have players like Luis Alberto that are fresher for another very important match. And then there is Europe, then there's Coppa Italia again, very important match, then Serie A again, then it's going to be Europe League. So a lot of matches, and it's really good to have so many options in front. And it's really good, honestly, to have Nani. I think he played well, but at the same time, I don't believe he's still 100% in shape. I don't think this is still the real Nani. But the things I like about him is, he wants to win. He's completely different from Felipe Anderson, that in the first half looked like he was playing for someone else. Instead, Nani, you can see it. He wanted to score. He wanted to win. And the other thing is, even if he wasn't 100% fit, still, in a couple of occasions, he came back, he tracked back because the midfielder, Milinkovic-Savic, was attacking, and so there could be the chance for the counter-attack. Those things, for me, are really important.
He's like the anti-Ronaldinho. He always looks angry on the pitch. And but in a good way, I think you're right. He always looks determined in a way that, perhaps Felipe Anderson doesn't. But I think one of the really important parts of their performance tonight as well is the fact that this team has proven that they can get a really good result and score 3 goals without Ciro or Alberto in the team. And a lot's been made of how many goals Lazio have scored this season, 56 now in 21 games. So I think it's only PSG, Barcelona, City and Liverpool in the whole of Europe who've scored more goals than Lazio. But to come in with an alternative front two and still be able to get both of them on the score sheet must be really confidence boosting for the whole squad, because in the Europa League games we didn't always see that. Obviously we managed to get through the Europa League quite easily, but the kind of alternatives up front weren't always the most convincing, and I think this is a pretty intriguing alternative to the first choice. The idea of having these 2 guys to call upon, and they're only going to get better as well. I mean, you mentioned that Nani, you don't think he's quite fully fit yet, and this is still the most minutes he's he's played for Lazio tonight. I think he made it to 70 minutes tonight. Before that, the most he'd played was 58. And when you actually look at how many minutes he's played in the Lazio shirt, I think it's still around the 160 mark before tonight. So he's really not featured much in a Lazio shirt so far. So there's a lot more to come from him. And it's pretty impressive that he's made such a good impression already, considering that he's only really had these very small windows of opportunity, mostly as a substitute.
Yeah, and let's not forget, this was the first time he started in Serie A. And as you were saying, in Europe League, things didn't go very well. But don't forget that Felipe Anderson wasn't there, and Nani was injured and was recovered from injury in the first part. So it was Inzaghi at that time didn't have that many options. So and you were right, Luis Alberto. Nani didn't play that much, but still, he didn't play that much in the last 2 matches, but scored twice. So really, really good. And he came out. It looks like he asked to be subbed because he felt a little bit tired. So that's why Inzaghi brought him out. But at least he's not injured. So luckily he will be able to play against AC Milan next Sunday. But yeah, I thought it was really, really important for this match. The second goal coming immediately at the beginning of the second half. Finally, Felipe Anderson showing his talent. And again, Nani, the willing, the eye of the tiger, closed the match.
The final goal was really the best example of what Felipe Anderson's greatest asset is, which is his pace and the counter-attack from a wide position. And I suppose the one thing that struck me tonight is that he's just not a player who's comfortable playing in the middle, which is something we already knew, really. But clearly he's going to have to adapt to that position. He doesn't necessarily have to if he's in a partnership where whoever's alongside him can take up a central position while he's out wide, but you do see him drifting around the pitch an awful lot to try and get involved and get onto the ball, find space. And he wasn't, he doesn't supply the same danger that Immobile would, for example, in terms of making runs behind the defenders and kind of playing through the middle. So he's still a very useful attacking player. I just don't think he's a number 9. That's not really a role that's suited to him.
I think that if they get used to play together more and get used to each other, they can become more dangerous. Of course, you won't have a real number 9 like Immobile if Nani and Felipe Anderson play together, but probably the biggest challenge for the defender is understand where they're coming from and what they're doing, because they can be very fast and took the defense by surprise. So it's obviously something different, and I believe that in that case Milinkovic-Savic can become more and more important because he can become the real striker, especially on the long balls, etc. So
the other thing I was thinking in recent games particularly as well is that Lucas Leiva's actually taking on recently much more of a creative role than he did at the start of the season. And I think that's because we now have so many players who occupy the attention of defenders. And if you take Felipe Anderson, for example, he's so direct. He always runs at defenders and kind of takes one or two players out of the game by doing that. Likewise, they're very tight marking on Milinkovic-Savic a lot of the time, same with Immobile, Alberto, all these guys. And a lot of the time what you see happening is if the ball comes out from an attack, Lucas Leiva's left in a lot of space, and he's been able to attempt these passes over the top, through balls, and he's been chipping in with. I mean, obviously the Milinkovic-Savic goal against Kiev last weekend, that was from a Lucas assist, which was brilliant. And I think he's finding himself actually getting much more of a not quite a regista, but he's definitely getting more of a creative role recently, I'd say, than he did do before.
Yeah, because as you were saying, and Bergomi said it as well, Lazio probably has the best midfield in Serie A. And last year, for example, the other team were preparing the match, saying, okay, we have to block Lucas Biglia, and then Lazio will struggle. So this season, they found out that Luis Alberto was the playmaker. So at a certain point, you can see that he was marked or double marked in some occasion. And then there was Milinkovic-Savic, who was free, etc. So now, when they play against Lazio, they know, okay, one man has to go on Luis Alberto, one man has to go to Parolo, one has to go to Milinkovic-Savic, and then there is Lucas Leiva that is free, because that's the type of player that the striker should chase. But we know that not all the striker has this thing of chasing the player. And let's not forget that Lucas Leiva now is famous to be, the type of player that recovers the ball. But when he came to Liverpool, he came there to play as a playmaker. So he has that type of skill, and he's learning how to play in Serie A. And so I believe he's going to improve more and more and more, and we'll see him more as a playmaker than we've seen till now. So that's going to be really interesting, I think. And it's a reason why Lazio is playing even better, I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you say, the midfield's brilliant. There's just danger all over the pitch. And if Lazio aren't going to go into the transfer market for another striker, which it doesn't look like we are, then it's promising to see that we've got these guys who can fulfill that role. I mean, in terms of adapting their game, like you were saying, to get used to playing with each other, I think the second goal is a really good example of that, because Anderson came wide again and he used his pace, which is such a big asset of his, to get up the wing. But then when one of them's come wide, the other one at least is taking up a central position, and that was where Nani was to apply the finish. So, it's a really good understanding that in the way that goal was executed, which, is a blueprint for how that partnership could work. I think, very encouraging, actually, with so many games coming up as well.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good point of the season to see those two playing well together.
Yes, absolutely. And, this is it's going to be very important for the future, because, as Inzaghi said often, they are going to play a lot, because we have so many matches, and it's not possible to think that Luis Alberto and Immobile will play all of them. So it's good to see them playing. I think it was important that Nani scored, but it was at the same way important for Felipe Anderson to score after a match like that. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it's just a confidence thing, isn't it? If you're a player who's not had much game time, or if you're just recovering from an injury, to come back and put the ball in the net, it's a big deal. So from that perspective, it's great. And, we've already had so many different goal scorers this season that it's great to add Samir of Udinese to the list as well.
Milinkovic-Savic is so good that he makes even the other defenders score for us.
Yeah, exactly. He assists whoever he wants. Lovely little cushion header there for that. I mean, that was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to see, even in that first half, Lazio weren't at their best. At half-time, I was having a quick read over the stats, and we were behind in possession and shots on goal, and, it hadn't been a particularly good half, but you're still winning, and that as a result of the pressure that was being applied, and there wasn't much pressure being put on the Udinese in that half, but it was enough to see us go in front. So it's, the sign of a good team, as they say, to repeat a cliche, that you can manage to get results when you're not playing well. Yeah. Lazio did play well in the second half, but I mean, in terms of being in front at half-time, despite not being at our best, I think that was really, really promising.
And the fact that in the second half, Udinese didn't have a real chance, if you forget the mistakes Strakosha did. They really didn't have any chances at all, which, it's incredible, thinking that they were losing. So, they had to try and score. So that I thought was a very important fact about this match.
He made two very good saves tonight, actually, Strakosha. He made one in the first half as well, and that was classic Strakosha, the first one. It's what he's so good at, is the way he manages to collapse his body to one side or the other, and he just gets down so quickly to put a hand to a shot. That was wonderful. But again, it's this is what I was talking about after the Inter game. And remember, his kicking is still the kind of area of his game that needs the most improvement. And we saw that again tonight, that he gave Udinese an opportunity out of nothing, and thankfully he wasn't punished. But that's something that he needs to put some work into, because it's definitely the one thing he needs to improve on the most.
Yeah, before going to the questions, are you surprised that Cáceres didn't start?
Yeah, I think we all wanted to see him start, because Wallace didn't play well last weekend. Bastos has been getting some criticism for a while, but I think it's hard to say. Perhaps Inzaghi's not had long enough with him to trust putting him straight into the team. It's hard to say. Or he wants to integrate him more slowly than that. Or maybe just to have him 100% for the Milan game. Who knows?
Yep. Before starting with the question, Michael Di Mascio, if you say again that Alistair Mackenzie is the star, you're not welcome on the show anymore. Okay?
No, keep saying it, please.
Rami Al-Gendi, very impressed by Nani and Lucas Leiva again. Yeah, we said it. I mean, Nani, as I said, he's not 100%, but he's already making the difference. And Lucas Leiva, great performance. Patrick Bowman asked us if it's the man of the match, Lucas Leiva. What's your thought?
Possibly. I thought he was very good tonight. He was tidying up a lot in the middle and coming forward to create some chances as well. Yeah, you'd definitely be in the running for it. Yeah. I haven't really kind of thought about who the man of the match would be, but he'd definitely be up for it.
Yeah, probably most of them will give it to Felipe Anderson for a goal and an assist. But again, Lucas Leiva was really good. And one of the most important thing, we had him, Parolo, and Milinkovic-Savic, all that were at one yellow card from the suspension, and none of them got it, which is incredible for Lazio standard, remembering that Lazio is playing against AC Milan. In the second half, after the second goal, I was, okay, now take off Lucas Leiva. Now take off Lucas Leiva. I was really scared that he could get the yellow card and miss the Milan match.
Well, yeah, you're always walking a bit of a tightrope, aren't you? Especially playing in the position that they do.
Yeah.
But perhaps that's why Milinkovic-Savic was taken off as well in the second half.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Milinkovic is another key player. So I would have made immediately 2 subs after the second goal: Milinkovic and Lucas Leiva. You still have, Murgia that can play in that position, or you put back Parolo that played there, and see how things go. I was surprised that Udinese didn't push that hard after the Nani goal. So maybe he could give more time to Murgia, who's not playing that much. If we really have to see something bad, I think that the playtime of Murgia is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, although he did get 5 minutes tonight at least, which isn't obviously isn't great, but it's more than he's got most of the season, to be honest. He's not even been given a chance from the bench most of the time, so maybe that's a signal that Inzaghi's going to start giving him more opportunities. But it's one thing that we've not been tested with so much this season, really, is what to do when that first choice midfield isn't in place in important games. We've been quite lucky with the fitness of Lucas, Milinkovic-Savic and Parolo. They've played most of the games this season, really. So Murgia, that's the time that you'd expect him to come into the team. Yeah. So he's been a bit unlucky. I think we did expect and would have liked Inzaghi to be a bit more flexible and give him a bit more game time than he has had. But that's the main reason, though, is just how consistent those three have been, really.
Yeah, and to be honest, Lucas Leiva has improved a lot, maybe even more than Inzaghi could expect. Milinkovic-Savic, he can decide the match whenever he wants, even when he's not playing at his top. And Parolo probably has the experience that you want every time in match, especially important match. So it's tough to take one of those three out, to be honest. So, and then you have Lulic. When he doesn't play, he can be very useful, even playing the three center position of the midfield, like he did today. Again, I think Lulic in December and January, he's played really, really well. I know you love him, but he's playing well now.
Well, no, I do love Lulic, but I think it wasn't just me who was criticising him at the start of the season. I think he really wasn't playing well in the first half of the season. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think he's been much better recently, and it's been from what I've said for ages, which is that he's much better suited to playing in the midfield than he is as a wing-back. And I think we've all seen that recently, is that he has put in better performances from those positions than he does generally on the wing. Lukaku, I mean, he's such an explosive guy, but my God, he needs to train his right foot a bit, because sometimes tonight you see him come through and he doesn't know what to do as soon as he's on the wrong side of his, as soon as he's in the position where he needs to use his right foot, he gets a bit lost.
Yeah. But again, I mean, he played well, and what I like is seeing the players helping each other. Like I was saying before, Nani coming back to help the midfield, Lukaku, Lucas Leiva helping each other. That's really important, and tells you how the team, enjoy playing together. And I think that's another key of the success of Inzaghi. Everybody feels part of the project, everybody is having fun, and everybody feels that, the manager trusts you. So I think this is really important, and that's one of the reasons why Lazio is performing so well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, team spirit's been a part of it from day one, really, hasn't it? Ever since the Super Cup, you could see that from the celebrations and the way the team came together then. So, huge credit to them. And, there's not... I think as well it's important to flag up the way that they reacted to the rocky stage of form that they went through, and we've managed to kind of come through that relatively unscathed. I mean, you're seeing other teams, Inter particularly, but Inter and Roma really both having their own problem times at the moment, and it goes to show that we actually managed to pick up a fairly decent amount of points while our form was actually pretty bad.
Absolutely. I mean, that Sampdoria game was really fundamental, I think, and came in a bad moment, so it was really important to win that match. And how important it is to win this match with Wallace playing and Lazio not allowing any goal. What does it say?
I don't know, there'll be statistics out there somewhere which calculate the Wallace to clean sheet ratio, and it can't be very good. No, he had a quiet game tonight. But like you said before, Udinese didn't really trouble us an awful lot. There wasn't really too much to say about the defence tonight, because they didn't really have to do an awful lot. Strakosha made a couple of great saves, and actually on the back of one of those saves, Radu made a brilliant block as well, which he then injured himself from. But I don't think we can read in too much to actually be too positive or negative about the defence tonight, because they were fairly quiet.
Yeah, but to be honest, now I don't know the real numbers, but Maxi Lopez scores to Lazio every match he plays. So, today I was already waiting, okay, when does he score? Because he always does. Even last time when Lazio beat Torino, he scored. So, it's good that for once he didn't.
And Bizzarri as well, which is the one I was worried about a few weeks ago. Was Bizzarri always seems to have a brilliant game against us, but tonight he didn't have to, so that was another relief.
Well, he didn't have the chance to shine, because every time Lazio shot on target, it was impossible for the keeper to do something. So that's good.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's quite surprising actually when you do look at the. I was just having a quick look at the statistic from the match tonight. The Udinese have actually ended up with more shots on goal than we did, 12 to 10. Lazio had more on target, but thinking about the game, it's quite hard to think of 12 Udinese shots on goal. It's quite surprising. And Udinese also had 54% of the possession, but it goes to show that it's the end product really, which is where we've been so good recently. I mean, obviously that's 13 goals in three games now. So Lazio's end product is brilliant, just so clinical when we're getting opportunities.
And I think the important message from tonight is that in the past we were convinced that Immobile and Luis Alberto was fundamental for this team, and today Lazio won without them because Luis Alberto came in. That I don't want to say the match was over, but it was nearly there. It was 2-0 already. So I think that's really important. If you take off the two top players of every team, they'll struggle against Udinese, which is a good team. Let's not forget. And instead, Lazio, without them, with Nani and Felipe Anderson playing for the first time together, won easily. I'm not sure. Didn't play that well, probably, but won without risking nothing in the second half. So that's a really important message, I think, and very encouraging for the fans and the team.
Yeah, I suppose if you're wanting to be negative about it as well, you could look back over the last two games and say, yes, we've scored a lot of goals, but we've conceded 3 against Spal and Chievo. So it is very, very good to get a clean sheet again, which was something that we were really building up before New Year with 3 in a row against Crotone, Fiorentina, Inter. But I just saw a comment from Christopher Thomas saying pretty much that, let's not forget Udinese haven't been beaten in 7 Serie A games till tonight. This was never an easy game, yet we came away with 3-0 and a clean sheet. And yeah, he's right. I mean, Udinese have been on such a good run under Massimo Odo. He's turned them from a team facing relegation to a team pushing for the Europa League. So you shouldn't underestimate how good a result this is. Even though they didn't look too good tonight, it was quite nice to get that result, and also to see the Curva Nord welcoming back Odo and Luciano Zauri as well. They put out a banner in the Curva Nord for him.
Yeah, 2 things. Udinese didn't play well, but how much is credit to Lazio? And I think a lot. And another thing, we complain often about the Stadio Olimpico half empty. Today the match was at 6:30 on Wednesday, very difficult for normal people who works. But there were more fans today than on Sunday when the match should have been played. So really good coverage, good presence about the fans in Italy, in Rome, to watch the match, which is good. And I think this team deserves to have the fans cheering them and supporting during the match, because they're really giving everything, and they deserve to have the fans helping them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a brilliant Lazio team. We'll see that at the end of the season, I suppose. But this is one of the best Lazio teams of the kind of recent modern era. So it's worth going to watch because you're going to be entertained. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. 6:30 on a weekday. That's an absolute nightmare of a time to try and get a crowd along for.
And I mean, who decided? That doesn't make sense. Why 6:30? It's nuts. So
it'll just be for the TV, won't it? They want 2 games on TV. So that's what they're going to do. But obviously, Lazio get the early kickoff, and Sampdoria Roma get the late kickoff.
Yeah, well, it ended well anyway, so it's good. It's good. It's fine, and we have a couple of hours more to recover for the next match. Inzaghi spoke. He said it was a very important match. It was good to see players perform like that. Felipe Anderson and Nani have been very good. They weren't so. It wasn't easy because it's never easy play against Udinese. It's good to see both of them scoring. De Vrij, we wait his renewal of contract, and I think he will come. But the most important thing is that he's concentrate to the next match. Yeah, this thing about De Vrij, as usual, as it happens all the time, there came out rumors that the agent didn't want to sign the contract because Inter was making another offer to him, but it looks like it's just a problem of translation. So they need the contract to get translated, and this take a little bit of time. So it shouldn't be any issue, but we're gonna find out in the next week or so.
Well, I saw was it's very frustrating, and for us as well, because every time we keep coming on here and thinking something's about to happen. But Iglitare seems to be coming out before every game now and saying something about it too. And I saw before tonight's game, he said that it's on the way, but it's difficult dealing with the Dutch because they're very strict about things. And you're thinking, well, of course they are. I mean, you're signing a new contract with a football club. That shouldn't be something that he's frustrated about. So I don't know what's going on there, but he does seem to be convinced that it's about to happen. So that's something at least. I mean, obviously we'll have to, I'll believe it when I see it. But
again, it's
it does seem at least it's going in the right direction at least.
Yeah, the thing that concerned me is what happened with Biglia last year. Do you remember that in January there were rumors that he was signing the renewal of contract, and then this never happened? So that's the thing that concerned me. But at the same time, we have to say that Biglia and De Vrij are two different people. Biglia never said he was staying, or never looked like he was focused on staying, while De Vrij gave me the other impression. So we're going to see what happens. But at the moment, it's important to see De Vrij playing like that. I mean, again, today he had another great performance. And as we were saying last week, even Radu, now when he plays, he's a different player. He's very useful. He always played very well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think it will be good, though, to have, one of the useful things about Cáceres as well is that he'll be able to play on the left-hand side as well as the right.
Yep.
Whereas with Bastos and Wallace, I think they're already a bit dodgy enough on the right, so I don't think he'd be too comfortable putting them on the left. So yeah, Radu's been very solid this season.
I think it's one of the secret of the success of Lazio, because especially at the beginning where Lazio didn't have that many options, Radu was the big surprise. In the past I always said that one of the problems of Lazio was Radu playing on the left, and now he's probably one of the best players, one of the best performance Lazio had this year. So
he's one of these guys he's always a kind of 7 out of 10 solid, isn't he? I mean, he never has a particularly incredible game, and he never really has a particularly bad game either. He seems to just be very consistent level of performance, and considering what the other defenders in the team are like, that's not a quality to be sniffed at. It's quite a very valuable quality for a defender.
Yeah, but as you said before, after Strakosha made that incredible save, again, Radu slide and save what could have been a certain goal for Udinese. So, he doesn't make any more terrible mistakes, and in a couple of occasions he's really useful. So I'm really pleased about the performance of Radu, even because, again, he's a little bit like Lulic, He's now a fan, not only a player of Lazio. So it's good to see him performing that well and become one of the fundamental players of Lazio. I think this year he played a lot, much more than normally. So I'm really pleased. But to be honest, Felipe Anderson sometimes it looks like he's playing only because he has to. But every player this year it's really playing well at a high level and giving everything he has. So that's really positive, I believe.
Can I bring up another question that I've just seen?
Yep.
So it's from Patrick Bowman, and he says, do we, or anyone else for that matter, really understand how good this version of Lazio is? I think because we kind of analyse it so deeply and we get so close to it, it's quite hard sometimes to step back objectively and kind of realise what's going on almost. And this week I was listening to another podcast that covers Italian football, and they were talking about Serie A, and had an expert on who was saying that he believes Lazio are definitely going to finish third, and said they're the most complete team in Italy after Juventus and Napoli, and had absolutely no doubts about it. I think being a Lazio fan, by nature, you have to be quite cautious about saying things like that, because traditionally, especially in the last decade or so, we've been a team that's been very good in moments of a season, but not continuously throughout the season. If you take the season, Pioli's last season when Felipe Anderson was so good, there's about 3 months when Lazio are absolutely unstoppable in Italy, and then faded out at the end of the season. So I think this team is a bit different, though. I do feel more confident about this team achieving Champions League qualification than I think I have done before. Obviously, that's helped as well by the fourth place also being a Champions League spot. But in terms of a top three finish, I feel a lot more confident about this team than I have done, for a very long time.
Yeah, and being a Lazio fan, in this moment, you're like waiting, okay, I know something bad is going to happen, just when. But
I think bad things have already happened. Is the difference is that Inzaghi's already, we're in January and we've already been through an, injury crisis after injury crisis. We've had the busiest part of the year in terms of Europa League, Coppa Italia early rounds and Serie A games. And we've played big matches away to Juventus and got a win. We've been through so many challenges already that we've come through, and Inzaghi's always proven that he knows how to get the best out of the squad, and the squad has shown that it's got enough depth to actually cope with these challenges.
And don't forget that Felipe Anderson started playing in December, and this summer he should have been the star of the team, and then Luis Alberto came out. But don't forget this. So yeah, you're right. But being a Lazio fan, you always wait for the bad things to happen. You know that it could. But two things I was thinking about. One is that this is still a young team. I think next year could be even better. Give one more year to Strakosha, Murcia. Milinkovic-Savic still can improve for me. Felipe Anderson. There are so many youngsters that have talent that can still improve. That I think if we keep everybody, next year Lazio is going to be even stronger. And on the other side, usually you had, I remember the time Lazio fight for the Champions League spot against Udinese, and Udinese was a surprise with Di Natale, with Muriel, with Alexis Sanchez. And this year I watched the other teams, and Milan is nothing. Nothing special. Fiorentina, again. Roma is struggling after starting very well. And Inter, the same thing. So I don't see a team that is much better than Lazio this year, which is probably one of the biggest differences compared to the past. So,
Well, I think as well, the difference there is that Inter have a good enough squad to still be a big threat to Lazio, but they don't look nearly as flexible as Lazio. They rely on the goals of Mauro Icardi, and when Mauro Icardi doesn't play, they don't play. And we saw that in the game at the end of December.
Yeah.
De Vrij marked Icardi out of that game, and Inter didn't really have anything else to show. So they need a plan B. you could say the same thing about Napoli, but Napoli's plan A is usually so good that there isn't really a need for a plan B, whereas Inter are now struggling to find a plan B. And obviously the interesting thing with Roma is going to be what happens in the January transfer market, because if Edin Dzeko leaves, they're suddenly down their best striker, and it's a lot of pressure to put on the shoulders of a guy like Patrick Schick, if that's their plan. So, after January, Lazio could end up, despite not really being particularly busy in the market, Lazio could end up even stronger in terms of their chances of getting into that kind of top 3, top 4.
Yeah, we were talking about this in the last episode of Lazio Lounge. It's the 1st January probably. Without probably, it's the 1st January where Lazio come out stronger than the other teams. The rivals usually, they come in January by big players, where Lazio doesn't do nothing. Instead, this year is different. I think Cáceres will become very useful for the team, while we have to see the impact of Rafinha, but Roma is probably going to sell some key players, so we're going to see. Patrick Bowman points out that Lazio collected 46 points in the first 21st Serie A match days for the first time in their history. So Inzaghi better than Petkovic. This is another great achievement from Simoncino Inzaghi, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, and these records have kept coming throughout the season. So there's from very early on this season, we've seen comparisons to the Eriksen's team, and obviously the difference between mentioning Petkovic, the difference between this team and a team like that is perhaps that they seem to have the longevity to see it through. Because obviously the season is long, but there's no reason at the moment to really think that this is going down the way. If anything, Lazio are probably the most unformed team in Italy right now. I don't want to jinx anything too badly. But,
no, let's not. But yeah, it's good to see the subs, Today was a tough match because Lazio was without Luis Alberto Immobile and Felipe Anderson and Rani came. Wallace was playing. So there were some changes, but the result didn't change. So that's the most important thing for this team, that tells you how good the squad is, finally. So yeah, I think Lazio has a big chance this season to arrive in the Champions League spot. And the good thing is, seeing Inter and Roma struggling, Lazio could even arrive third, I don't believe Lazio could get or fight with Napoli and Juventus for the second place or the Scudetto, but I think for the third spot, yes, absolutely, or at least for the fourth. And I don't know if you agree, but I think that at this point, Lazio have the chance to go and fight for everything, going further in the Europe League, maybe reach the final in Coppa Italia, and still achieve a Champions League spot in the Serie A.
Yeah, I think Coppa Italia final is looking pretty good. Over 2 legs against this Milan team, I can't see past us. Again, sorry, I feel like I'm jinxing things again, but this Milan team just isn't convincing. They perhaps could get to win in a one-off game, but over 2 legs, got to be big favourites. But it'd also be interesting to see if Champions League qualification, this is probably a discussion for the end of the season, but if Champions League qualification did arrive, what that would mean, how that would change things for Lazio in the market, because that would take Lotito and Tari from a position of having to be extremely careful with their spending into one where we're guaranteed a group stage spot in the Champions League. That's the difference with this new system of the coefficients, is that it's not even qualifiers. You're going into the group stage and all the prize money that entails. So that will go quite some way, not only to actually opening up options in the market, but also to keeping players at the club, because Milinkovic-Savic is the obvious one, and you already think from the comments of the likes of Ilitari that he's already kind of slowly preparing fans for the idea of him leaving in the summer. And obviously we're not going to want to see that. But if he can get Champions League football and probably a wage hike, then he'll be a lot happier. So, yeah, lots to play for. It's a very exciting to go all the way back to that question. It's an incredibly exciting time to watch this Lazio team, and I think in terms of understanding how good it is, we'll only understand that at the end of the season. That's the only answer you can give, because that's the only way a team can be judged is their longevity and going all the way.
Yeah, let's not forget that Lazio already won a trophy. I mean, this season, so that's good. That's a good start.
Yeah. Exactly.
For a team that doesn't win that many trophies, already have won, it's a good start. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, absolutely, and 100% record against Juventus as well after 2 games. So
yeah, and one away. Yeah, don't forget.
Exactly, which is is a phenomenal achievement considering how badly that fixture has gone for us in recent years. It's been hugely significant.
Yeah, and now Lazio has to play away against AC Milan, Fiorentina and Napoli. So it's not bad, the calendar, the fixtures.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we've got these 2 back-to-back Milan games coming up.
Yep.
One in Serie A, one in the Coppa Italia. It's going to be quite interesting to see the selection for that. That will give us a pretty clear idea of where Inzaghi, how seriously he's taking the Coppa Italia, because this is the first time he's really been put in a position that he has to make these calls, really. But they've been on a decent run, actually. Gattuso seemed like a very strange appointment, but they beat Inter to get to this stage, and they've won their last 2 in a row. I mean, I think it was Cagliari and
they have been very
Crotone.
lucky, to be honest.
So
they never played that well.
They're not an impressive team, but
No.
they've definitely got more fight to them now that they've got Gattuso, as you'd expect.
Yeah, but for example, I expect Inzaghi to do a turnover there again and give chances to players that didn't play that much. Obviously, I'm thinking about Murgia, but maybe Nani or Felipe Anderson again. I think that's the right approach to take. The silence means no.
And it's not too long until. Sorry, was that?
I mean, your silence means no. I don't agree with you.
Oh well, no, I do, because it's two games in 3 days. He's going to do that. I wouldn't expect him to put out a completely different team, but if he plays Alberto and if Ciro's fit again on Sunday, then he'll probably play Alberto and Ciro again, and then you'd expect to then see Nani and Anderson again, for example, in the Coppa Italia.
Or do you expect Bastos to start as striker?
Well, this is what I've been campaigning for, but nobody else seems very happy about it.
I'm surprised. Honestly.
He's a natural. He's a natural goal scorer. He's a predatory finisher, and I think with a position change, he would suddenly become the most dangerous man in the squad.
Absolutely.
But far, if he's going to be that dangerous near goal, he might as well be at the other end of the pitch instead of near our goal.
I don't think he's playing that bad, honestly. I saw again the first goal of Chievo. He could have done something better there, but apart from that, I think he had a good match again.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think it comes back to the conversation we had before, where I said that I think he's becoming a bit of a Mauricio figure, which is a bit of a shame because he's made enough enough mistakes by now for people to have a bit of a laugh at him. But actually, sometimes how well he is performing is overlooked because of that. But yeah, I don't think he's reached Mauricio, DEFCON 5, DEFCON 1, whatever the dangerous one is. I think he's actually been. I think he's been a lot more reliable than Wallace has. Anyway, Wallace has looked a shadow of himself since he's come back from injury.
Wallace said
So yeah,
tonight after the match that he feel he's not still 100%, so he still have to improve and recover. But I think today he had a good performance at the end. I mean, he wasn't that bad. Al, I think we can wrap it up here. I don't know if you agree. I mean, we can close it here. Thanks everybody for listening us. Remember, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spreaker, on iTunes, and maybe rate our podcast. And then follow us on our social platform, Twitter and Facebook, as usual. And if you have questions for any match or want to interact to us, just reach us and pose your question or ask if you can join the show if you want. We are always looking for more guests. Bye, Alistair.
But no more stars of the show, though, right?
What do you mean? Bye, Alistair. Talk to you on Sunday
right.
then.
See you next time. See you Sunday.
Bye.
Yeah, speak to you then.